Greetings, Kindred. I am Voivode Maquette, and welcome back to our World of Darkness and Level by Level, where we are currently going through each of the powers of Thin Blood Alchemy, and today we're moving on to level 3. Now, before we move on to the power that we're handling today, I do want to point out that at this level, the alchemist can develop formulae to counterfeit level 2 powers of other disciplines. Each of these formulae take at least a night to distill and at least 1 month of research. So you can, at this point in time, move on to doing level 2 disciplines since you have level 3 blood alchemy. And I like the fact that they do keep it 1 behind because it shows that it takes a little bit more effort. And also, it is suggested that storytellers keep in mind that certain disciplines could start becoming game breaking, and you might need to set your own rules on this one, whether they need like level 4 alchemy to get certain level 2s or something like that, because it's just something that you need to keep an eye on what the power strategy of your game is. Now, me personally, I think that if it was an excruciatingly powerful discipline that the Thin Blood Alchemy was about to copy, I would probably just make it so that the ingredients for the formula and the difficulty of getting them was the difficult part. I'd probably still leave it at level 3 gets level 2s. Now, moving on. We are on Defractionate, which is actually a really neat power which holds its origins in Revivify the Cold Vitae, which is actually an old Mortis ritual that the Cappadocians used to use. Revivify the Cold Vitae used to take cold blood, dead blood, and make it so that there was nutrition in it. It was also interesting because it was a role-playing aspect also, because even though they were able to do this, it did not necessarily taste good. It had a moldy, dusty taste to it, and vampires would drink it because they needed to. However, due to the high clan status of the Cappadocians and the fact that they would interact with the courts as advisors and chamberlains and seneschals and things like that, it became a high status point to drink revivified vitae at parties as a status symbol. So vampires were actually consuming things that they truly didn't like because of popularity, and it's so stupid. But it is something that reflects very heavily in human life. So I do enjoy that. Now, Defractionate is slightly different, and the book says this formula results in homeopathic elixir. When added to fractionated medical supply blood, the elixir returns it to freshness, allowing a vampire without the iron gullet merit to obtain nutrition from it. So what you're doing actually is creating an elixir that you put into fractionated blood, like if you donate white blood cells or if you donate platelets or something like that. What this does is it takes that concentrated blood and mixes it in to give it more kick, to make it actually have nutritional value. Now, that's kind of neat because what you're basically doing is creating a vampire juice cocktail at that point in time. You're making it so that something can be stretched out and prolonged also. The ingredients for this, though, are the alchemist's own blood, as always, because that's going to be part of every formula. Sanguine and melancholic human blood. O-negative human blood, which is that's an interesting thing that it's asking for, but you only need a few milliliters of that. Moldy spinach, hot black coffee, and sodium octanote. Now, I'm probably pronouncing that completely wrong, but sodium octanote, just for our science buffs, that is it's an organic sodium salt comprising of equal numbers of sodium and octanote ions. So there you go. There's our little bit of a science lesson for today. Now, the system says the alchemist taps their vessel, calcinatio, or their own vein, Anthedor corpus, to get the Defractionate elixir if they do not use a fixatio. Wow. Oh my god. For each success of the distillation roll, they get enough elixir to turn 1 blood bag. So that slakes 1 hunger. From fractionated to unfractionated blood. Any vampire can consume this blood and slake hunger with it. So that's really neat. The fact that you can take things that you typically would need a merit for and make it usable by anybody. A thin blood who has access to fractionated blood could very well start a tidy little business on this. And actually maybe pretty appreciated by the Camarilla or the Anarchs, but of course that doesn't mean that it's going to go well. There's always enemies, somebody who's going to see this as a trespassing on their turf or something like that. Somebody's going to claim domain on blood supplies that somehow. If you can do it, they will do it. Now for Anthenor Corpus, the alchemists can tap their own vein once per night for this elixir until their next feeding, or until they reach a hunger 5. They need not pay the distillation cost again. So in other words, they could actually bleed into it, shake it up, and make the blood worth using again. So that is a pretty neat thing if you're using yourself as the distillation method. Now the other one, the calcinatio, I really hate the fact that I have to pronounce these because I actually do use a pronunciation guide. And a lot of these words aren't in there. For calcinatio, if the vessel survives the tap, the alchemist can tap them again in a week for more elixir. So the elixir actually stays in their system for a while. So that's pretty cool if you can get them to survive. They need not pay the distillation cost again, but the vessel pays the health cost. 3 aggravated damage each time they're tapped. So this is something that will eventually kill a person. And it doesn't really seem worth it for the most part to do over and over again on the same individual. Unless you've got specific people set aside for specific reasons. Blood alchemists are going to do that kind of thing. So that is Defractionate with all the mispronunciations I probably threw in there. And it does give you the different styles of handling things depending on what your distillation type is. Personally, the self-distillation still seems the most worth it to me, but this is also something that I think that you would want to stockpile, and having the medicine ability to be able to keep blood preserved long enough to be able to use it over the course of time might very much be something you want to consider if you're going to take this ritual, because this kind of seems like the kind of thing that you're going to want to stockpile and keep for a little while at least, especially if you're selling it, which I don't know, for some reason when I think thin blood alchemy, the first thing that pops into my mind is shady back alley drug deals, because this discipline is truthfully made off of the meth lab culture. And yeah, so that is what we have for this. As always, I ask, has anybody ever used this? To what purpose? How has it made game more fulfilling for you? These are things that I truly want to know. I am Voivode Maquette. This is Our World of Darkness, and this has been Level by Level. Thank you for joining me for this lesson. Class dismissed.